Well, let's put it this way. The leader your company needs, being the leader your company needs, most companies need a leader who's an iconoclast versus a conformist. Most companies need a leader who is who can be a collaborator and a team player versus a one-man band. Most companies need a leader who can go for an impossible future versus a predictable future, and who can do things that take bold and even unreasonable action in some cases. I think most organizations have a very strong culture of conformity, and there's a very high level of fear of stepping out beyond that.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Our special guest today is Robert Hargrove, and he is with MasterfulCoaching. He is a coach. He's been a coach for many years. He talks about, being a courageous leader. He talks about, being bold and audacious. And all of these things are necessary if you want to create a legendary company. Now, if you are leaning into this, then you're at the right place. If you're a little bit scared about what's going on, maybe you should listen in too, because it takes you willing to grow and willing to lead in order to create the kind of company you want. And so today we talk about becoming the leader that your company needs. My name is Gene Hammett. I'm an executive coach. We do leadership development where we take managers and turn them into leaders. We also work with executive teams that are out of alignment. And so if any of those things are issues that you want to address, make sure you reach out to me. You can check out my website at coreelevation.com. You can email me, gene@genehammett.com. But if you're not quite ready for a conversation with me directly, then all you have to do is go to coreelevation.com and look at the virtual conversations. Every month we do something new, one conversation that is meant to activate new levels of thinking. You can come in, you can ask questions, you can add value to this. If you truly are respectful and feel like you want to grow as a company, just go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversations, see if the right topic for you resonates. And then you can sign up and then show up, and we'll have a great conversation with previous guests on the show, previous clients, other really amazing CEOs of fast growth companies. So if you want to do that, just go to coreelevation.com and we'll see you then. Now here's the interview with Robert. Robert, how are you?
Great.
It's got to be doing better than that. What's going on in your
Well, I had a
life?
5:30 call this morning with the COO of Honda Corporation, interested in masterful coaching services. I did a call with someone in Europe, Serbia, who is putting together a masterful coaching masterclass. And I had a call with Nike that's having a lot of issues. Their company stock is way down. And so, and then I went to the driving range and had a long drive contest with a CEO who owns a software company in New York. So that's been a pretty good day.
Pretty good day, Robert. You got a lot of continents touched there, a lot of different types of organizations. I'm going to give you a chance to kind of give us a little bit of a background on you, because I will tell our audience already, through the way I structure this podcast. But what would you like to highlight about your experience over the last few decades?
Well, my overall orientation is expressed in the banner of my website, MasterfulCoaching.com. It's called Better Leaders, Better World. I'm very interested in that. And from a business perspective, we say our work is about, we help the daring build legendary companies. And daring is a key word. I used to think my customers were CEOs, and they are CEOs and entrepreneurs to some extent, but most CEOs and entrepreneurs are not daring, nor are they out to create legendary companies. So that's my focus. My strength in terms of my work at Masterful Coaching is leadership transformation, business transformation, category transformation, revenue transformation. Now that's I could say that in a lot of different ways, but that's one way of looking at it.
So obviously those four things are all connected, but it all stems back into having the right kind of leadership. Would you agree with that, or do you see it differently?
No, let's say when a company is having problems, for example, like let's take Nike, for example, it's easy to say it's a vision problem or a strategy problem or a brand problem or a product problem. In many cases, It's really the issue. It's not any of those issues. It's not a leadership issue, strategy issue. I mean, it's a leadership issue, not any of that's the fundamental problem. It's a leadership issue. And in
Yeah,
most cases, the
too.
CEO and the team think it's everything else but a leadership issue.
When your team was positioning you for this, because we don't take many pitches, but you snuck through because of your experience. And then a couple of words that stood out for me was becoming the leader your business needs. What does that mean to you?
Well, there's a lot of people who are writing books about leadership. There's a lot of people giving leadership programs, seminars, workshops. There's a lot of people who could sit down and write a book. Many people could sit down and write a book or an article about leadership. That's different than being the leader your business needs. Your business may need someone who is visionary, or your business may need someone who is practical. I don't know what it is, but my job is to help them become the leader their business needs. But what I'm really interested in, to be honest, is I like helping to develop transformational leaders, people who can create a new future for their company or for their country, not just optimize the present.
So let's take a different angle on this. What do you think gets in the way of being a leadership in today's world?
What gets in the way of what?
Of being the leaders that our companies need?
Well, I think that there's a culture of, well, let's put it this way. The leader your company needs, being the leader your company needs, and most companies need a leader who's an iconoclast versus a conformist. Most companies need a leader who is who can be a collaborator and a team player versus a one-man band. Most companies need a leader who can go for an impossible future versus a predictable future, and who can do things that take bold and even unreasonable action in some cases. I think most organizations, there's a very strong culture of conformity, and there's a very high level of fear of stepping out beyond that. I'll give you an example. Today I read on CNN and other places about President Zelensky of the Ukraine bombing a bridge inside of Russia. I mean, that took a lot of that to me is that's a bold and audacious move to go from protecting your country from the Russians to actually invading Russia and blowing up their bridges. I think that quite oftentimes the leaders I see in corporations, they're not audacious. They're not bold. They're thinking very much in terms of being reasonable. Instead of taking bold and unreasonable action, they're timid and they're taking reasonable action. Is that a good example?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that's kind of coming out, I don't think you've said it directly, but you got to be a courageous leader. And I think if you're talking about daring organizations and being, creating a legendary company, you cannot do that unless you're courageous.
You have to be courageous. You have to be audacious. You have to be bold. I mean, Steve Jobs is the example. Elon Musk is the example, and there's many other examples.
I like to talk about this. I think Elon Musk is pretty amazing in many ways. I don't think he's a good example of leadership. I think he's a great example of visionary leader, but not one who leads people in a way that I see work consistently and predictably over time. Do you see it differently for Elon Musk?
I don't necessarily see it differently, but I'll tell you what I see the acid test of leadership. The acid test of leadership is not someone's leadership style. Is not their ability to build a team. Is not their ability to create a culture. The acid test of leadership is being able to bring about historic change, consistent with the values of a people. So Elon Musk does not fit what Jeffrey Pfeffer at Stanford called leadership bullshit. All the things, a leader should be authentic, a leader should be vulnerable, a leader should have emotional intelligence, all of those things. But at the end of the day, history will remember that Elon Musk played a pivotal role in accelerating the shift to sustainable transport. He had a big purpose. But I wouldn't disagree with what you said either. Would I want to work for Elon Musk? Probably not. You know what I would say to you, Elon Musk, first time he messed with me? I'd say, take this job and you know what you can do with it. I wouldn't put up with it. But I think we've been,
Probably not very coachable.
many people who are in coaching and consulting have been talked in, or their modus operandi is what Jeffrey Pfeffer calls leadership bullshit. You have to have all these 10 characteristics and traits you should have. If you don't have them, you're not a leader. No, I don't say that. You're a leader if you can do something that alters the course of history.
Now, Robert just mentioned the acid test of leadership, being able to bring about change. I claim that you will never be able to bring about change unless you have a vision that is really clear for people and compelling. They want to follow that. And you've got to communicate it in a way that they can't unhear. You've got to communicate it in a way that gets alignment. And you've got to be willing to stand in the truth of this and listen to them and let people feel heard, but also be able to rally people together. Now, is that something that you already have naturally as a talent? Most people don't. If you're curious about how we do it for you, all you have to do is reach out to us at genehammett.com. Send me an email. Happy to help you absolutely for free. If you feel like you are a good fit for us, we will explore this. I won't rush you into a conversation. And if you're fit, we'll talk about how we work together. If not, we won't even worry about it. We'll just let you carry on and execute to that and come back and tell me your successes. Now back to Robert, which you can't do that without aligning people together. So I'm kind of curious, you've done a lot of work with high performance teams. Alignment's got to be one of those key components.
Well, that's a good point you make over there, Gene. So the first job of a leader, if you will, is to set the direction. So Elon Musk, for example, had the goal of the purpose of accelerating the shift to a sustainable transport. Steve Jobs wanted to transform the world with a personal computer. Give me another example. Now, what you have to have a goal that's big enough to be a great leader. You have to have a goal that's big enough for everyone to subordinate their egos to. Okay, otherwise they're going to fight with each other. Secondly, you need to work really hard at creating alignment between all the different people on your team. It's much easier to set a goal or set the direction than it is to create alignment. And so I would notice that in many team building sessions I led for CEOs and enterprise leaders, that the CEO would come in with a vision and with a strategy, but he didn't really have alignment, or she didn't have alignment. And as a result, people would go to the meeting, they'd sign off on the vision, they'd sign off on the strategy, and then nothing would ever happen.
Yeah.
Is this speaking to your listening when I'm discussing?
Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of leaders probably do have some big goals that could be bigger. They understand the direction, but they honestly, I feel like they suck at communicating that with others in a way that gets alignment. They get infighting, or they get a little bit of like passive alignment, which is not real alignment to me. But what we need in organizations in order to really create something transformative is a deep alignment where people trust each other and are willing to have, the tough conversations. That's one reason why I wrote that book, How to Have Tough Conversations. When you're working,
well, that's a very good point. Let me just say one thing. We can talk about your book in a second. I think if you ask the leaders of every Fortune 500 company in America, do you believe it's important to have a shared vision and to create alignment in your team? Everyone would say yes, of course. But what I discovered is that few people are actually willing to invest the time and energy necessary to create alignment. It takes a lot of time. I mean, it means being willing to have, as you put it, the tough conversations with people. It means, and I love the title of your book, How to Have Tough Conversations. That's a great hook. It means that in order to have alignment, people have to be able to, what Chris Argyris of Harvard called, discuss the undiscussable. I agree with this about your vision. I agree with this about the strategy, but here's where I disagree. I don't think you can get alignment without discussing the undiscussable or having the tough conversation. It can't just be lip service, because I'm afraid, given the fact that you're the boss, I either have to agree with you or I'm out the door.
Now, Robert mentioned tough conversations. I'm going to lift up my book here. If you're looking on the video, Tough Conversations is a book I wrote with Amanda Hammett, my wife, because a lot of organizations were avoiding these tough conversations. They would have an employee that needed to be fired. And I might say, well, how long have you been thinking about that? And they'll say a year. It's not even surprising to me anymore when I hear that. But I also know that these people are not courageous enough to engage in these conversations. And then when they do it, they're not doing it very well. So I wrote the book about it. If you want to dive into that, You can buy it wherever you buy books online, Amazon, Walgreens, Barnes and Noble. But if you want the Audible version, you have to go to either audible.com or you have to go to amazon.com to buy the Audible or the audio version of that book. So check it out if you want to get better at tough conversations. Back to Robert. So in your experience working with a lot of different organizations for many decades, because I know you've come here with more gray hair than me. No offense, Robert.
I'm gonna dye my hair this afternoon. Go ahead.
Mine's only gray right here on the chin. When you are working with teams that are missing this alignment, how do you get them to actually become that leader that the company needs to be and create the kind of alignment necessary for these legendary companies that you're creating?
I would think that I'm a bit of an instigator.
Okay.
I'm a bit of a professional provocateur. I say you need to talk to this guy about this. I remember I was in one meeting with a electric vehicle company in Europe. I won't mention the name. And before the meeting, there was a meeting of the top team with the CEO, the vice president of marketing, the chief operating officer, finance, sales, whatever. The COO told me, whatever it is, I know China's a big market, but I don't want to work in China. I'll never work in China. Absolutely not. We get into the meeting. The CEO says the guy's name was Oliver. He said, this is how I see the strategy, and this is how I see the organization chart. And he went down. And I said, Oliver, I want you to take over China and run that. Oliver didn't say a word. He sat there like nodding his head, see the inside, and not saying anything. The CEO walks out of the meeting that day thinking that Oliver's aligned. So I grabbed Oliver during the coffee break and said, hey, you need to say what you feel about this. Why did you keep your mouth shut? Well, the reason is in many organizations, there's a culture of fear, and you have to drive out fear.
Yeah. We come back to courage again. As we wrap up today's conversation, Robert, what do you wish CEOs understood, but they don't seem to understand as they grow their legendary companies?
You see, the CEO's job is to create a new future versus just optimize the present, and that means that you have to oftentimes, Peter Drucker said it, cut off the branch on which you sit. Let's say the old business model, whether it be personal computers or electric cars or a new way of dentistry, in order to grab another branch on the way down. It requires letting go. Love is letting go of fear.
Yeah, it's hard. My first book is called The Trap of Success, and I remember running that business. We were never a household name, and never really got beyond 7 million in revenues a year. But I look back at that before I became a coach, and I could see an innovation happening, but I wouldn't let myself do it. And today, that's not me. I've been willing to grow beyond that, write the book about it.
It's not easy to do that. And that's why I think it's very important to have a transformational coach who can help you transform from one kind of leader to a different kind of leader, or one business model or to another, or from one vision to the next. That's why I said creating a new future versus just optimizing the past. So thank you very much. I love your book, the title, How to Have Tough Conversations. You're a very good interviewer.
Robert, I appreciate you being here and share your wisdom.
All right, good.
Wow, what a great interview. I love his approach. It's very matter of fact. He's been around the block. He knows what real leadership looks like, and he knows how to call it when people are out of alignment. So I really appreciate Robert being here on the show and sharing his wisdom with us. When you think about your own growth, hopefully you're evolving. Hopefully you are continuing to be the leader that your company deserves. And if you have any questions about how we can serve you and your company, make sure you reach out to us at corelevation.com. And when you think of leadership and you think of growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.